Hey, it's Chris Doucher for GeekNerdNet.com, and I am super excited to be joined by George Michail. He's a comic book writer, Canadian. I've met him at a couple shows the last couple of years, and very happy to do one of his first ever interviews, his first ever interview in the industry back at the 2019 Calgary Expo. You'll remember expos and conventions. We'll get there again. But hey, George has a new book coming out via Absolute Comics. It is called Resilient, and it's in previews right now to order at your local comic shop. There's going to be a Kickstarter. We'll talk about that. You know what? Without further ado, hey George, welcome.
Hey Chris, thanks for having me on, man.
Hey, super happy to have you. And I do, we did chat before we talked here. I love that we both have these great art backgrounds. You have a lot more original art than me, but we both have Stan the Man over our shoulders. So you can't be going too wrong when you've got that guy looking over you.
Ain't Stan.
Touch for instance. So listen, George, congratulations on the new book coming up, Resilient. I read a bit about it before you and I chatted, and I also ordered it at my local comic shop. So I'm excited to get that when it comes out. Just talk about it, man. Talk about the story, how you got it started, how you came in, how it came to you, I guess, and go from there.
So Resilient is a comic book about a woman who loses her arms, and it's about her kind of recovery and kind of coming to terms with her new situation. Along the way, she gets these badass kind of cybernetic robotic arm, and she finds herself in a situation where she needs to rescue her husband from these gangsters. So it's a judo teacher, robot arms. She's got a katana too, and yeah, it's kind of like an action adventure story full of carnage and guts and blood and fun times. I don't know. It's a story that is pretty close to me though, because like I wanted to talk about recovering from a major injury, and in 2014 I broke my back. When I was 15 years old, I had heart surgery, and so these are some topics that are explored, but in kind of like an action movie type of vibe.
Yeah, that's really cool. Like on the comic itself, I've seen some of the images, and we'll be showing them as I'm talking. No need to see my face, but they should be popping up right now. Anyway, but the books and the covers all look really cool. The artwork you share with me, the story sounds super fun. I mean, cybernetic arms, hi, can't go wrong there. Also, nice art to look at. I'll put it that way. And obviously now that I know the backstory there, and that was not a pun, by the way, on you and your no, really it wasn't. I didn't mean to do that. But I mean, the title itself, Resilient, that ties right into everything you just said. Like you're breaking your back, your heart surgery. It's interesting how we all pull from our personal lives, and you're really pulling there. So did you bring more of that to the story, or was it how did that, I guess, weave itself in?
Yeah, these were topics that I wanted to talk about. Yeah, when I was 15, I had pericarditis, which is like inflammation of the heart sac, and I remember banging on my parents' door, not being able to have like any blood flow to my body. I felt like really faint. It was like 1 a.m, and I passed out right in the kitchen floor.
Oh.
And we were living on Vancouver Island, and they actually flew me in like a helicopter over to Vancouver Children's Hospital, and I had like emergency surgery that night to drain the fluid because it was putting so much pressure on the heart it couldn't pump properly. And then after that, I was in isolation for weeks because they weren't sure if this virus that I had was contagious. So I had 2 weeks by myself in the hospital room there, and having a hard time just getting out of bed. So these were things that stuck with me for 20 plus years that I just always kind of wanted to explore and write a story about. At the same time, I don't really like stories like that. I'm a simple man. I like kung fu movies and cheesy one-liners and just things like this. So I wanted to kind of integrate the two things, because if you can create a story where you care about the characters, when the carnage and mayhem start to happen, you're really kind of dialed in, and so that's what I set out to do.
Oh, well, thanks for sharing the extended story there. That that's an origin story in itself. And it's cool how that, you're like, you know what, I don't want to get, that's too much bogging people down. Let's get right into the fun of carnage and mayhem and comics and so the story itself now is, apologies for not having this answer right off the bat, but I'm not sure if I saw it somewhere. But are you hoping for it to be an ongoing series? Is it a mini? How are you launching this? How's it looking for that?
Yeah, so we're launching it as an ongoing, which is kind of amazing. I self-funded the first issue. I worked with an artist named Vince Altabanis. He's from Paris, France, and he's living in Quebec now. And he's an amazing talent. He's worked mostly in like video games, and he's done some covers for like Zenescope and stuff. But I found him on Instagram, and we started working on this book together. And I really needed a publisher to kind of pick it up after the first issue, just so that we could kind of keep going with it. And Absolute Comics is a great company. I've tabled next to. I did like 18 shows in 2019, and a bunch of times I was next to Jamie Tyndall and Murphy, creators and people who work at Absolute Comics. And then at New York Comic Con, I had the chance to meet Benny Powell, the editor-in-chief there, and he read my book and he's like, yeah, let's do this. And he's like, I think this is going to integrate really well into their shared universe. So I had originally kind of pitched it as a mini series, and he's like, no, like this character, we really believe in this book a lot. Like we want this to keep going. So after your initial story arc, we're going to integrate it into the rest of the universe. And so our character is going to cross over with like White Widow and I Make Boys Cry and some of their other titles down the road.
Oh, that's great. Congratulations. That's, it's funny. I do want to jump back for a second. When you and I chatted last year at Fan Expo Vancouver, we did talk about, in our interview, we did talk about the 18 shows you did the year prior. And you were living in your rock star, as you said, you're rock starring it up. You're living in your van or in your car, sorry. You're at like truck stops and you're doing like 4 shows in 4 weeks at one point. That's just a crazy marathon. You've got to, and I'm going to talk about the pandemic because we're in it. Look at us, we're both in our home offices, but unfortunately not on a convention floor, but eventually hope we get back there. To have all those shows under your belt and then to just go boom, like full stop, like not just you, like everybody, media, creators, exhibitors, people that run the shows. I mean, what kind of impact, like I get the financial impact on many levels for everybody involved, but what kind of impact did that have on you personally? I mean, I know for me, I can, not to make this about me and my friend, but I know I miss so many friends. I miss that connection. I miss that feeling of belonging, as dramatic as that sounds. How has that affected, how has it affected you?
Yeah, it's been devastating, to be honest with you. I miss it so much. I just life in general, but I like to have something to look forward to. I always plan out my shows and plan out my trips and in 2019 I did the 18 shows. We were in like New York, Los Angeles, New Orleans, up to Calgary, kind of all 4 corners of the continent there. And for 2020 I had another 18 shows booked, and I actually quit my day job beginning of March, which was the worst possible time. And it was really hard go there, and I've really missed it. I actually just had to cancel a show. I was supposed to be in Vegas at Days of the Dead in like 2 weeks from now.
Yeah.
And I just had to cancel it. The show's going on and it looks like they're doing great, but I just, with the travel restrictions here in Canada, I couldn't justify it.
Oh man, yeah, that's tough. It's a tough one, but I mean, smart. We got to think with our heads over our hearts sometimes, right? And again, like I said, I do hope that eventually, once we all get those jabs in our arms and and what have you, and however the world shakes out, that we're all back at it. Maybe later this year. Okay, so back to Resilient. Ongoing, fantastic with Absolute Comics. Like I said, it's in this week's issue of previews that just came out. Folks can order it via their local comic shop. You've got a Kickstarter coming up. Talk about that.
Sure, yeah. So we're launching a Kickstarter from May 3rd to 13th, and you can pick up Resilient through that. We have exclusive covers that are only available there. So if you go into your local comic book store, you can order in Resilient. We've got kind of the cover A with art by Vince Altsmanis, our series artist. And we have a variant cover by Ali Garza, worked on like Supergirl and Deadpool. And then Andy Bellinger, we have a lenticular cover that actually turns, and so you can have her arms like appear and disappear. So
Cool.
those are the retail versions, and then we have 6 variant covers that are exclusive to the Kickstarter. We have one by Ed Bennis, who worked on like Justice League and Birds of Prey. I was like over the moon to get him. So yeah, it turned out so sick. And so there's metal covers, there's foil covers, lots of cool stuff. And some really cool artwork that's going to be fairly limited supply, because these Kickstarters, there's only a couple hundred copies of those made. So yeah, you'll want to reach out and try and get some of those too.
That's very cool. And then George, talk about some other stuff you got that you want to have come down the pipe in the next months of 2021.
I am planning on hitting the road again this year. I'm bringing my family, so I better do a bit better so I'm not sleeping in my van.
They won't be sleeping in the van, that's for sure. You
well,
might be.
I won't be sleeping on the couch. I'll be sleeping in the front seat. No, we've got a bunch of shows, MegaCon in Orlando, Fan Expo Boston, kind of all in August. So I'm really excited to get back out there. This is my first series that's been released by a publisher. It's been about 3.5 years now that I've been just working and hustling to try and to get this out there. It's been hard kind of cracking into the industry, but personally, I think the hardest obstacle for myself was really deciding to go for it. I was really afraid of failure for a long time, and putting myself out there. And so ever since I've done that, it is hard, but I'm kind of slowly making some progress there. And I'm really thankful to Absolute Comics to take this chance on me. They really believe in the book a lot. Their White Widow series does really, really well for independent publisher. It's one of the top selling books, and they're doing this Kickstarter for Resilient. It's the first time that they've done a Kickstarter not attached to their White Widow series. So they really have a lot of faith in the book. So I'm very thankful to them for believing in me and for giving me my first published book.
Dude, it's awesome. I love that it's your first published book. But I will also say, and I think others might say it too. However, when I met you at the Calgary Expo in 2019 and talked about Cover of Darkness with
Chris Doucher,
when you did that and you're at a show and you've got that book, and by the way, it's a fun series, and you and I have talked about it a couple times already, and now a third. You already broke in. You did it yourself, right? And I mean, and to take that leap is great. So congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, we've got big things coming for Cover of Darkness probably in 2022. I don't want to say anything right now, but it's going to cross the finish line for sure. We're actually working on like issue 10 now, so that's what this artwork is here. This is the original artwork by Scott McDaniel of Batman fame, and he did those for Cover of Darkness. And then I've got my Resilient artwork down here on the bottom.
Awesome.
So this is like my mini office here.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. Listen, I can't wait to read it. Resilient, congratulations again. And tell people before we sign off, tell people where they can reach you, where they can find you.
So you can find me on Instagram at Comic Book George, and I also have a YouTube channel of my own. It's called Inside Comics, and you can find me on there too. And I interview different creators every week.
Yes, awesome. I apologize. I meant to mention that. You just reminded me. Congratulations on that show too. Ton of fun. Yes, what George said. Check it out. It's very cool. So George, hey, thanks so much again, and good luck with Resilient.
Thank you, Chris.